If you've travelled along Chicago's famous Lakeshore Drive at any point in the last few years, then you might have seen a bit of a strange sight. Right where the expressway skirting Lake Michigan crosses the Chicago River, a huge gaping hole has been just sitting there, virtually unchanged, for well over a decade. It was supposed to be the start of America's first megatall skyscraper, designed by one of the world's leading architects. But this giant pit is all that remains. It's a bit of an embarrassment for a city that's widely considered to be the birthplace of the skyscraper. But a decade and a half later, something has changed. That hole has been filled, and an actual building is taking its place. Chicago has a history of tall building rivalries. Even now, people still debate whether this city or New York is the true home of the skyscraper. Back in 2005, a new battle was heating up, but this one was to be fought within Chicago's boundaries. Donald Trump had just seen construction begin on his giant International Hotel and Tower, a building that would become the city's second tallest when it completed 4 years later. The only building of a greater height was the iconic Willis Tower, or Sears Tower if you prefer, which took the title of World's Tallest Building in 1973. But plans were being drawn up for another tower that would break records again and give America its first ever megatall skyscraper. Not only that, at 610 metres and 150 stories, this building would have had just the Burj Khalifa above it in the global rankings of the world's tallest buildings when it completed in 2012. Initially named the Fordham Spire after the real estate developer, the building featured a striking design from Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava. With a majestic twisting form that makes the facade look like it's moving, this tower would, at first, offer a mix of condos, a hotel, and a broadcast antenna. And yet, the Fordham name was to be short-lived. Just months into the project, the firm was unable to generate enough funding. In stepped Garrett Kelleher of Dublin-based Schwen Development to take over, stating he'd provide 100% of the equity. After gaining control, Kelleher considered renaming it according to the location, 400 North Lakeshore Drive. But in the end, he just decided to tweak the original. From then on, it would be known simply as the Chicago Spire and would consist only of luxury apartments, over 1,000 of them. By mid-2007, work was ready to begin on a building that had been unanimously approved by the Chicago Plan Commission, the city's zoning committee, and the council. But not everyone was in favour of it, including Trump. Years earlier, he said, "I would not want to build that building, nor would I want to live in that building. Any bank that would put up money to build a building like that would be insane." Unperturbed by the future president's stern words, construction got underway in the June of that year. Like all skyscrapers, things kicked off with the foundations, which in this case took the shape of, you guessed it, a big round hole supported by caissons buried in the ground. Inside this, the tower's circular core would be built, with the helical floor plates cantilevering out from the centre. Each floor would be offset from the one below by just over 2 degrees, giving the building that twisted shape. But things never got that far. Before any more could be done on the rest of the structure, it was 2008, and we all know what happened then.
We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
Fears of a global financial collapse.
It is definitely a very, very difficult time, and it's not going to get better quickly.
The Great Recession hit the project hard and caused all building work to be suspended. Anglo-Irish Bank, where most of the money was being borrowed from, was close to collapse, with Shelbourne facing lawsuits, and it turned out Calatrava was owed millions. What was so far just a massive crater more than 20 metres deep, in the middle of the most valuable area of Chicago, went no further. That literal scar on the landscape would then sit there, seemingly untouched, for more than 15 years. But while it appeared that nothing was happening, plans to put something new there were being drawn up behind the scenes. In 2014, the site was acquired by Related Midwest. That's the Chicago branch of the development company known for New York's Hudson Yards, the Grand LA in Los Angeles, and the transformation of London's King's Cross. Their first point of order was to immediately put a stop to speculation that the Spire might be revived. Instead, they decided to take a completely new approach with a proposal announced 4 years later. Rather than one huge tower, this spot of land would be home to 2 skyscrapers, but they wouldn't be megatall. That would be excessive. No, these were considerably smaller, one rising to 335 metres, featuring hotel rooms and condos, and the other reaching 260 metres, offering rental apartments. This time, architecture firm Skidmore, Owings and Merrill were brought in, led by David Childs. He's the guy who designed the actual tallest building in America, One World Trade Center. It would be Childs' last project before his death in March 2025 at the age of 83.
We feel that the best skylines incorporate soaring forms, so whether that be a spire or a taper. And we want to bring that kind of tapering profile, that soaring profile, to the Lakeshore Drive here in Chicago. So the challenge for us as designers was how to do that in an efficient way, in a way that could be appropriate for the market that we're in here.
SOM's vision is to have the 2 towers set slightly apart from each other and at different angles, tapering from the base to the tip and angling back towards the cityscape. That'll create a new visual gateway to Chicago and ensure that views from the west are interrupted as little as possible.
But from a design and skyline standpoint, we thought that a gateway was an appropriate and powerful analogy and metaphor for this site in particular here in Chicago. This being the site of the founding of the city of Chicago. This is where the river meets Lake Michigan, and it was understood to be the place where the very early settlers came to found the city itself.
Meanwhile, at ground level, a new park is being constructed that's going to connect up to Chicago's famous Riverwalk. There's metal detailing inspired by the rippling surface of the lake, and the famous Chicago window, a hallmark of the city's architectural history, has been incorporated into that design too. But like with the Spire, some major revisions were needed before the project could proceed. Just months after the plans were put forward, Alderman Brandon Riley put it all on hold. His demands included the removal of all hotel rooms and a smaller podium between the 2 towers. So they went back to the drawing board and then returned with this, a design that offered some noticeable differences, height being the most obvious one. The south tower had shrunk significantly, now measuring 233 metres, while the north one had actually grown slightly to 266.
There were hundreds of variants of this design that were explored through the process, and that was done for a variety of reasons. Notably, we were exploring different ways in which the rates of change of stepping could impact wind forces, for example. Another is the types of units, the sizes of the homes here, the residences, is something during the design process that's in constant flux.
Approval was given in 2020, but that's another year that we all remember for the wrong reasons. Along came COVID, stopping the project from making any further progress for years. That was until...
Now something finally coming to fill that hole in the ground.
After many, many years. Yeah. So there was a groundbreaking today at 400 North DuSable Lakeshore Drive.
Finally, in 2024, construction was able to begin on phase 1 of the project. That's the first of the 2 towers, the taller one consisting of 635 rental apartments, 20% of which are expected to be affordable housing. And all of that is being built right inside that big old hole.
But how are they doing that? How do you go about reusing an excavation that was supposed to be for a much bigger building?
Many questions arose about how would we navigate what was left in the ground, and how would we be able to benefit from what was left.
Don Bernanke is Executive Vice President at Related Midwest. He's also president of the LR Contracting Company, who are the general contractor for the project, alongside Buehler Construction. Together, they had to work out how to tackle the various obstacles around the hole, or the cofferdam to give it its proper name, and work to remove what was inside.
Roughly 3 million gallons of water that was pumped out of the cofferdam, okay? There was the CSO line running through that site, so that had to be relocated.
Once that had been done, more than 600,000 pounds of steel was brought to site. That's the same as like 150 cars. Then 250 trucks turned up and started pouring concrete into the hole, with that steel acting as reinforcement.
On average, a delivery was made every 2 minutes for 12 hours straight. In total, £9 million, around 4,000 tonnes of the material was supplied to what's called the mat or raft foundation. That's where a single thick floor slab is placed onto soil, or in this case the bottom of the hole, and its job is to carry the load of the structure above and distribute it over an area. Using what was already there didn't just save all the effort of digging a new excavation. Construction teams could also recycle the caissons that stretch from the base of the hole all the way down to the bedrock. Those were first constructed for the spire all those years ago.
We were able to reuse a lot of those caissons. We had to relocate, some were relocated, some were reused, and some were abandoned. And then you're building around existing townhomes. And there's a condos adjacent to the site, right? So we're in and out, getting materials in, coordination, concrete trucks and things coming in and out. So all that's a heavy, a lot of coordination that needed to happen as well.
After the foundation was finished, teams started building the core of the new tower in the middle of the hole. At the same time, the space around the core was gradually backfilled with material gathered from nearby.
We actually used and started to dig some of the excavation around the cofferdam so that we could use the sand that was available. It was good, clean sand to fill the hole. So as we would come up, we would fill it, and then we would start to do the formwork and the foundation systems for what would ultimately be the core of the building.
When the structure had passed ground level, in went another layer of concrete, and all of a sudden, Chicago's biggest eyesore was no more. After that, it became a fairly typical skyscraper construction site, with construction crews now focused on building the tower's 72 stories piece by piece. And they've been going about it in a pretty quick fashion. By April 2025, a new concrete floor was being poured every 3 days, and almost a third of the final total had been completed. While all of that's going on, a second team is following close behind. Their job is to install the glass curtain wall, which is key to enabling that distinctive architectural window design.
The curtain wall is going up, the embeds are going in above, and then our guys are coming in, walking it, double checking that, the sleeves, all the items that go into that deck before it's poured.
Unless there's another global financial crash or a pandemic on the way, and to be honest, you don't know what could happen these days, this project does look to be nicely on course. The first occupants are set to be in by 2027, and as for the South Tower, work on that won't begin until this one is fully constructed and occupied.
We'll have to look at market conditions at the time and make that assessment, but there is a complete commitment by the team that's here related that second tower certainly brings completeness to this site.
There is an inherent kind of flexibility in a two-tower scenario that allows us to align the supply and demand for apartments in this neighborhood.
The spire is far from the only skyscraper to be stopped midway through construction, but the fact that its remnants were left exposed for so long is not what you'd expect from a city like Chicago. Still, that's all now in the past, and the hole is gone, with the spire's successor moving along steadily. While some are going to be disappointed that the original plan never came to fruition, this replacement can be seen as a reality check in a world where buildings this tall are becoming few and far between. Chicagoans will no longer have to be reminded of failure every time they make that journey. Instead, they'll be able to look up at two buildings that might not be quite as extraordinary as what could have been, but do far more than just plug a gap in one of the world's most famous skylines. Don't forget that we're inspiring the next generation of skyscraper builders through our investment into BrickBorrow, a fantastic Lego subscription service. You can learn more and get started today over at brickborrow.com. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.